Is music important for society? Is air important to breathe?
It's, I think, a primal instinct in all people.
It's both a release and relaxation, and helps you just de-stress, and just plain fun.
You see the way that people obsess over celebrities and musicians and artists.
Going back to our hunting and gathering days, I mean, we have always been playing music to celebrate, whether it's celebrating a war victory or something spiritual.
Yeah. Exercise is, eating right. Part of my health regimen is to play music.
So yeah, if we like society, if we like it to be, buoyant and uniting and uplifting, then music is going to be one of the central key figures in that education.
To me.
Since the dawn of man, music has been an innate aspect of human consciousness. Just as our species has developed an instinctual need for creative expression, the practice of music can play an integral role in the everyday lives of those who experience it. To further elaborate upon this notion, we sat down with some local artists to see how music has affected and continues to affect their decisions both personally and professionally.
I got into music because of my dad. He played bass when I was really young, and I always thought that was really cool, and I always listened to the same music that he listened to, which was like Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, The Who.
I got into music because I was in love with listening to music. So I just listened to it all the time, knew all the words to all the songs, new stuff. I was at a time when all the classic rock, which is now classic, was all brand new, so it was really, really interesting.
So one day, I randomly went on Craigslist. I did, and I know that sounds probably really creepy, and 4 guys who were between ages 20 and 30 were looking for a female singer. So anyway, we started practicing, and now we're playing shows.
I was dabbling in playing with some other musicians, and I came across Scott, who was in one of my classes. I was 16 years old, and he was a drummer playing with a guitar player who just lost their bass player. He quit the band, so he asked if I wanted to try out. So I did, and we stuck together for about 3 years. Got back together, that's sort of the same thing. I ran into, Scott had lived away out of state for a long time, a few years ago, and I know John was working out of state up in Alaska as well, so for a long time. So I ran into Scott here at a music festival. 3 of us got together and just started jamming just for fun, just for something to do. Like I like to say, some friends of mine I go play golf with, and these guys, you go play music.
I used to pretend that I was conducting the Four Seasons, Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and it just got my imagination going. I knew that I latched onto it, and then one Christmas I got a radio, which was awesome. And before, I would put the radio under my pillow and just have it playing all night, and just discovering new music, listening to it all, seeing what the professionals did.
Truthfully, this room, sharing this very space, drove me into seeking my own headspace, and I think my brother Tony had sort of led into that path already. I saw him crafting some chord tendencies with guitar, and I noticed that there's a method to getting that, and we were getting guitar magazines floating into the house regularly, learning songs off the radio, and so it expanded into performing.
First time? Oh, it was probably the talent shows in school with my older brother Justin and my younger brother Vinny, and eventually Lewis. We all would sing and dance for the crowd.
I believe my first performance would have to have been on the stage at my Catholic grammar school, Christ the King. doing a variety of stage performances, from lip syncing to developing and singing, actually.
I mean, that's where it started, piano lessons, and then they moved away and picked up guitar. I asked my dad how to play a Rolling Stones song, because he always had a guitar lying around. But
First time I remember singing with my father, he played guitar before I was in the 5th grade, so I didn't have the hands yet and the coordination to play guitar. And so he strummed along while I sang Rainy Day People by Gordon Lightfoot. But then my first soiree and playing out to the public would have been when I was about 15 or 16, playing for tips at Starbucks.
I realized how difficult it was and how much work it was for everybody to get together and stay focused. And so I decided that it would be good to strike out and learn, and just go by myself. And I'm the only one I have to deal with. I'm the only one who has to. But that means that there's 2 basic elements that have to be there for playing songs: is singing and then some kind of music. So I was already playing guitar, and I started getting into learning other people's songs so that I could make music happen. I went to engineering school in Buffalo here, and eventually I went down to Nashville. I was working in a big studio down there, and I got in with the band, and I kind of went on tour with them down south for a while. When I got back home, my brother Vinny had a band, and he was playing at this place downtown Buffalo, and I would do sound for him. And in between the breaks of his band, I would go up and just play solo acoustic.
The band evolved into accumulating quite a number of rotating drummers, bass players, and keyboardists, saxophonists. There aren't too many rehearsals, but the band gets together to basically generate some energy for events and gigs and stuff. But I also try and flex my original songs in through the band as well, and that usually goes over well.
It was just a short little thing. I'd play a few songs and the band would come back on. And some people took notice of that and decided that they liked the way I played, and they liked the songs that I picked. So we started hanging out and putting some of those songs that we loved together, and eventually put it together well enough that you get to go out and make money doing it.
After touching base with these musicians on how they got started, it was time to delve into their connections to and opinions of the current state of the music scene and its significance to society.
Whether they know it or not, music is important for society.
It's good for everybody because people come together from all different age groups, and depending on the type of music, or you can be more specific with certain age groups doing something to, one age group doing something together and feeling connected that way.
It's always been a big part of bringing people together and sharing something that's inside of you with something that's inside of everybody else. I think that really brings people together.
When I was growing up, there was the Seattle grunge movement, which was, was these rock bands that were influenced by some of the gritty, original 50s, 60s, and especially 70s rock and roll. And they were playing their own instruments, writing their own songs, and it was raw, and it was also pushing an envelope, and they were developing. The point is, for Buffalo, is that was happening in Seattle. I always saw a correlation that Buffalo could be, or would be, the east side, where Seattle is the west side, the east side of that kind of movement.
It's more about from within, it sounds classic and corny.
But you can go to any local festival of a more general, and you'll see people from their 80s to 2-year-old kids running around having a blast, just listening to all due to the music, so that music's real important.
For Buffalo specifically, I don't know, I like what I see in the Buffalo music scene now as opposed to when I was maybe a teenager in the punk scene, and maybe it was a little bit partial to that scene, of ska punk music, at the time. But I think overall, music, the competitive, sort of chippiness that I remember musicians acting out in when I was first coming up has now sort of been replaced with a more cooperation.
Being a local artist and watching other local artists, I mean, whether they're, you know, national touring bands who came from Buffalo, or whether it's, you know, people like us who are just gigging around for fun, or whether it's, you know, garage bands who are playing, and I've gone and hung out with them and went to watch them. And I think that the Buffalo music scene in itself is a family, and the people that you meet and the talent that is just all around us, that most people who aren't part of the music scene, they don't even know. They're like, oh, you know, my friend's in a band, but it's like, you know, he or she could be absolutely just so talented, and you just enjoy listening to them so much.
There's a purpose, and there's that communal aspect of people getting together and, you know, supporting live music, enjoying live music, and having it for themselves. Like, this is our music scene.
Artists, 99% of the time, don't get a chance to express their art unless they're, you know, and with music, it's not like making a picture and then hoping somebody sees it. With music, you need people to hear it, so you want to go out into the public and do it. It just adds to the fun of it. It's a lot of fun just to sit and play, but it's also a lot of fun to share it with a lot of people.
It's still kind of underground in the country, but people hear now.
And once you join the scene itself, you just join a big family. I mean, that's the one thing that I found that I absolutely love about it, is it's one big talented family.